Here is a classic pathway of blood flow through the body. From the heart, the blood leaves via arteries, the largest artery being the aorta, and from there the arteries get smaller and smaller until they became so tiny that we call them arterioles. Arterioles are little arteries. That's why the letters LE at the end, meaning little artery. The arterioles bring the blood into the capillaries. The capillaries are the junction between arteries and veins. This is where exchange of gases takes place. From the capillaries, the blood flows into venules. Venules are little veins. Again, the LE at the end indicating small or little. From the venules, blood flows into increasingly larger veins until they reach the vena cava, which finally bring the blood back to the heart. We know this is a systemic circulation because the blood leaving the heart is oxygenated and the blood entering the heart is deoxygenated. If we are dealing with a pulmonary circulation, it would be the opposite. The blood leaving the heart would be deoxygenated and the blood returning to the heart would be oxygenated. We have three types of arteries in the body. They are conducting arteries, distributing arteries, and resistance arteries. The conducting arteries are the closest to the heart. They must respond to the changes that take place in the ventricle. When the ventricle contracts or relaxes, the changes in pressure are massive. So in order to handle this change in pressure, these arteries must be elastic. So we also call them elastic arteries. So the examples of elastic arteries are aorta, pulmonary trunk, and common carotid. They're all very close to the heart. They all have elastic tissue that will help them handle the changes in pressure coming from the ventricles. The next type of arteries are distributing arteries. As the name indicates, they distribute blood to organs. So they must respond to the needs of an organ. If an organ needs more blood, they will vasodilate, and if an organ needs less blood, they will vasoconstrict. In order to do this, they need smooth muscle. So these arteries are also called muscular arteries because they have a thicker muscular wall. All the arteries with names such as renal artery, gonadal artery, celiac trunk, femoral artery, popliteal artery, all of these named arteries come under distributing arteries. The next group of arteries, which are resistance arteries, have no names. These are very small arteries that actually perfuse the actual tissues of these organs. So they're at the tissue level. They are small arteries and arterioles. These small arteries and arterioles, they respond to the needs of a tissue and they dilate or constrict depending upon the oxygen demands of a tissue. A capillary is made up of a single layer of epithelial cells. These epithelial cells are squamous epithelial cells, and so exchange of gases is possible. Between these epithelial cells, there are spaces, and these spaces are called intercellular clefts. These spaces allow for small ions or water to pass through. A capillary also may have openings that you see here in yellow, and these openings or little windows are called fenestrations. The word fenestration comes from French for the word window, which is la fenêtre, which means window in French. So these openings can be present in some types of capillaries. A third structure that you will see in capillaries are tight junctions. These are structures that hold neighboring cells together so that they seal them and don't allow anything to pass through. Based upon these three modifications, the tight junctions, the intercellular clefts, and fenestrations, we classify capillaries into three types. The first type tends to be somewhat sealed, so it has no holes, it has no fenestrations, and very few things can pass through this type of capillary. That's the first type. The second type of capillary has some spaces between the cells and it has fenestrations. And these holes allow some more things to pass through it. Small molecules and ions, for example, can pass through these fenestrations quite easily. The third type of capillary has large holes, so big things can pass through this capillary, large openings. So basically, we're talking about no holes, some holes, and huge holes. Here is the first type of capillary that we talked about. We call these type of capillaries continuous capillaries. They tend to be more sealed. They have no fenestrations. They have tight junctions, and their intercellular spaces are very narrow or completely absent. So here we have it. Tight junctions are present. They seal off the capillary for the most part. They have intercellular clefts. In some organs in the body, these capillaries have narrow intercellular clefts, which means they allow a few things to pass through. This could be, for example, in skeletal muscles, where continuous capillaries allow some things to pass through. In some cases, the intercellular clefts are completely absent, with the tight junctions completely sealing them, and that's present in the brain. The blood-brain barrier in the brain does not have any spaces. It is completely sealed off. This is the most extreme example of a continuous capillary. And remember that continuous capillaries do not have fenestrations. There are no holes in a continuous capillary. This is the second type of capillaries, the fenestrated capillaries. You see the fenestrations shown as yellow circles. And these fenestrations allow small substances to pass through. That would be water, ions, or nutrients, such as glucose and amino acids. Fenestrated capillaries have to be somewhat leaky. They should allow things to pass through freely, so they cannot have tight junctions. Tight junctions, as you know, normally keep the cells together. They have to allow spaces between the cells, so there are no tight junctions in a fenestrated capillary. They also don't have intercellular clefts as a result. If there are no tight junctions, it's also possible for the cells to move apart. So the intercellular clefts tend to be broad and they allow more things to pass through freely. Small molecules, remember, but they can pass through freely. As a result, fenestrated capillaries are the perfect type of capillaries to be found in the digestive tract and kidneys where absorption takes place. When there is absorption, molecules are moving very quickly into the capillary. This is the third type of capillary. We call these capillaries sinusoidal capillaries. Notice the large openings in this capillary. Another name for this is discontinuous capillary, which is the opposite of continuous capillaries that we saw earlier. These large openings allow large substances to pass through. So we're talking about proteins and even cells. The proteins are made in the liver, and the liver needs to ship them out. The best way for them to do that is to put them into these sinusoidal capillaries. So sinusoidal capillaries are found in the liver. They're also found in the bone marrow, because the bone marrow is the site for blood cell production. It produces red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. So they can ship those out through this capillary. So the bone marrow sends out blood cells, the liver sends out proteins. So these two organs have sinusoidal capillaries.